Hey.
Everyone, how are you doing? Welcome to 360 Coaching with Premier Teaching and Learning. I have today a special, very special person. This is Dr. Nathan Lang-Raad. How are you?
Hey, Cassandra, I'm doing so well. I'm so happy to be a part of your professional learning journey. So I'm doing fantastic.
Oh my God, I love him. We met and our chemistry just clicked. He is so amazing.
Likewise, my friend, you're such a positive force in the world of education, and I'm honored just to be connected to you.
Oh, thank you. So,
Uh,
like, Dr. Lang is amazing. So Dr. Lang is an educator, speaker, author. I mean, he's the chief educational officer at We Video, and I use We Video faithfully. So now I got it in. I'm just saying. And he has just served as a teacher, assistant principal. He's a professor. I mean, solution tree consultant with Core Collaborative. I mean, he does it all. He's the director of elementary curriculum for the Metropolitan Nashville Public Schools, as well as the supervisor for NASA. Oh my gosh, amazing. The Space Center. And Google certified educator, let me just say that, and Microsoft innovator, Apple teacher. He serves as the president-elect of IITSE, right? Of Educational Leaders and PLN, Principal Learning Network. Is it?
yeah, you got it. Yeah, or Professional Learning Network.
Professional Learning Network.
Oh,
Yes.
that works too.
Oh my God, he is amazing. So hello, Dr. Lang-Raad.
Oh, you're so wonderful. Hello. It's so good to be here, Cassandra. And you're so very kind. And I just always say I'm a big education nerd. And I just love all things education and pedagogy. And I love talking about student creativity and empowering, educators to just be their most creative selves so that their students can also be their most creative selves. So yeah, that's my story.
Oh, I love it. I love it. And he is coming to share implementing literacy strategies via blended and remote instruction. So we love him for that. Thank you so much for sharing.
Oh, you're so welcome. Yeah, I'm excited to share this concept today because obviously of the world we're in, Cassandra. I mean, it's schools are rolling out their reopening plans, and teachers, they are the hardest working people, I think, one of the hardest group of working, people on the planet, working so hard up there with, all the service people. And it's really important that we're able to connect with students no matter kind of where we are on that continuum. I'm seeing this continuity of learning or continuum of options. Some schools will be opening and we'll have some face-to-face instruction happening. A lot of schools will just open with online, but throughout the year we know blended learning or remote learning is here to stay. It's a part of our world now. So I'm here to share some literacy strategies. They're really focused more on writing and feedback, and so that's going to be kind of the part of the literacy I'm going to focus on today. So is it good if I just jump right on in?
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to do it. Well, I'm going to jump in with a little mindfulness minute first. So it's really important during this time that we stop and provide ourselves moments of self-care, checking in with self. I say we should be doing this with our students whenever you get your students on a Zoom meeting or a Google Meet. I think it's always important to start off taking the yeah, and then it feels better when you do it. It feels like you're clearing the mind. And I know, I'm sure like you, Cassandra, I have a lot of meetings every day. Your kids are going to have lots of meetings every day. It's really important just to take time to be aware of your surroundings, be aware, checking in with yourself, how you're feeling. And it's important to be able to acknowledge tough times in your world, but also opportunities and times of positivity. So I had to put in our mindfulness minute there as well.
No, I love it. I'm thinking of, I can do that before my Zoom call with the students or with the students at the Zoom call, chair, mindfulness. Oh, so I love it. Yes.
Yay, good. Yeah, it's so important. Okay, so our learning targets for this very quick kind of short session, but it's important. We're going to look at some explicit writing learning protocols that really work well in this blended remote learning environment. We're also going to look at the feedback structure because whenever we are encouraging our students to write, we have to be able to provide feedback, but in a way that's not critical in a way that's not hindering their creative self. But obviously we have writing frameworks that we have to ensure that students are able to, write with coherence, right, with focus, keeping grammar and syntax in mind, conventions, but also in a way that's utilizing their voice. So being able to look at some feedback structures. So that's what we are going to explore today. Okay, first I wanted to just share some writing strategies, and these the writing strategies I'm showing right now. These aren't the innovative kind of remote learning, brand new things that just emerged. These are strategies that we have been using for a while now in writing instruction, but the reason why I'm sharing them now is because we are going to take these writing strategies and make them more adaptable for remote and blended learning. So with collaborative writing, before we were using maybe small group instruction, or we were giving, writing prompts for students at the beginning of a lesson and letting them write and then maybe do a think, pair, share. Well, in a blended remote environment, we can still do that. Just the context looks a little bit different. So we are going to take these strategies and look at what are some technology tools that we can use to really make these strategies stronger. And that's the great part about this is we are taking a challenging time and we are using technology to enhance learning. We're not trying to get by, in the very beginning of the pandemic, it was very crisis mode. It was like, what can we do to engage? Now it's, okay, let's just be strategic here. Let's think about how we can use these tools to increase learning with inquiry, with developing specific product goals, not just for writing's sake, although it is very effective to write in journals. It's very effective to reflect, but also it's effective when students understand why they're writing. It's not just writing just for writing's sake, but they're writing for a specific purpose.
No, I love that. I love that. And it even reminds me of just like, how do we share our writing? That's totally different with the online environment. And, I'm thinking of all type of ways to share the environment. So I'm really excited what you have for us.
Yeah, good. Yeah, I'm so excited that this resonates with you. Before I jump into the tools, I wanted to also share that there's research out there that promotes this idea of students texting being considered a writing strategy. Or a medium. And I know that's maybe a little bit unknown or kind of uncomfortable for a teacher to maybe explore that, because I know as an educator and who really pays attention to language, I think sometimes we feel a little bit like, oh no, why are we using textisms in our writing? We can't be saying OMG, LOL for every single thing. At the same time, our students are in their elements when they're using textisms, and I was really happy to find that the research shows that it doesn't mean that the language is falling apart, that there's not a framework for language. It just means that we have an opportunity for students to kind of look holistically at language, and they have to have some prior knowledge about syntax and symbols and conventions in order to use textism. So we can use that as teachers as a good springboard.
Yeah, and I agree. We need to meet them where they are. How can we develop them as writers? We take the platform that they're using and develop them. So yeah, I'm on board.
Awesome. Yeah, we really do. I mean, it's all about motivating students to meet them where they are right now. And texting is writing. If we are living in a new world with our devices, and we are writing all the time. And I think sometimes when we frame writing in our traditional methods, students they put themselves in this mindset, oh, I got to sit at a desk and I have to either type, in a word processor or a Google Doc, and they don't think about their everyday language being a part of the writing process, and that's what we have to make sure that they understand, that texting is language, it's syntax. But I think it's also an appropriate conversation to say or to have with students, relevancy plays a big part in your communication. So is it, yes, you can use OMG, BTW, LOL, but use that in a casual writing piece. Whenever you're writing a more formal piece, that's something we have to be very aware of, and we don't use those acronyms. And so I think it's a good conversation to open up about relevancy and when you use certain kind of casual language versus more formal language. Okay, so here is the list of writing strategies and tools to use through remote learning. And I will highlight just a few because we have a limited time here to be able to kind of, but I'll give kind of a good overview of these. So I love folded stories. And so folded stories is a way where you can start a sentence. Actually, I think what I can do here is, are you seeing the folded stories Google Doc? Perfect. So what you can do here is, I have a prompt here. If ever there was a time to use a cell phone, this was it. But he had left his charger at home and the phone was dead. He squinted down the road and could just make out. So that's a prompt you could start with. And so whenever you click on so if I give this prompt to my students, they would click on the prompt, open the prompt, and then this is the prompt they just read, and then this is an example of maybe a prompt that the students would have. This is a response the students may have had. And so like the flames rising from what had been his rental car, whatever the story is. And then you keep adding on to that. So I could give this link to a student through a Google Doc. It's asynchronous, that means that students don't have to be doing this in real time. They can do this on their own time. You give maybe the parameter of like, hey, in a week, I want you to respond to this folded story. And the reason why it's called a folded story is because it came from the traditional paper pencil concept of you would start a sentence and you would fold down, and then at the end you'd unfold the whole story, and then you would read it in sequence. And so you could do the same thing here, just you use a Google Doc instead of a piece of paper. So I love this kind of folded story mindset.
I love this too, just the fact that you can build on stories, you can see who commented, and then you can reread the story. And so, there's so many pieces to that.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And I love being able to challenge students, hey, create your own prompt. And then we can go and start, go through the whole series, like, all right, now you start the story, now I'm going to add to it, and so forth. So thanks for the affirmation, Cassandra. Dialogue journals. This is another exciting one that I like to do. So I like to use Google Slides for this one. And the reason I like to use Google Slides is because you can choose backgrounds that are like maybe an old scroll or whatever background you want to choose. It's just gives me some more options for some visually appealing journals. So this is a scenario in which a teacher has a Google slide deck shared with a student, and the purpose is the student would reflect on something happening in their world, and the teacher has an opportunity to respond. So let's just go through. So maybe the student was reading, let's say, The Wizard of Oz, and so the teacher puts in, in your summary, I noticed that you wrote a lot about Dorothy and your love for being at home. I also love being at home. I think it took Dorothy going on an adventure to Oz before she fully realized her love and dedication to her home and her family. So as a teacher, I kind of, I made a connection to the student. I shared something I experienced, a personal story, and, is relating to a piece of text that you were reading in class. And so then the student could also just respond, and you just add another slide down. So you have a sequence of slides. You can kind of go back, and you can like date the slides, so you can go back and figure out what date you wrote something. So a student response could have been, yes, I like being at home, but I also like exploring the woods around my house. And sometimes I hear noises in the woods, I get scared, and I run back to my house because I feel safest there. And it gives, again, the dialogue journals, it allows teachers to respond and affirm throughout the process. So I like Google Slides. It goes, a lot of times teachers use Google Slides for presentations, but I like to use them as communication and collaborative tools as well.
It's personal. I would have loved to get a personal note for my, it's kind of like, it's the taking what we love and have the students journal and having the student, the teacher collect the journals and write little notes. This is, asynchronous. So this is great.
It really is. Thank you for that. Yeah, it's again using the tool in a way that's enhancing learning. And before these tools were embedded in the classroom, the efficiency of having to collect pieces of paper and get feedback, it was very laborious, and it it was hard to kind of keep up with all that. And now it's easier with our Google. I'm a big fan of the Google Suite tool. So I've already shown docs and slides already. Hashtag write to an author. This was really a popular hashtag when the pandemic first hit, and it was on Twitter where authors were giving permission to read their books. And then students were like, well, hey, we'd love to connect with the author of this book. And then teachers were helping students do that. So that's still happening today, even in the midst of summer. There are authors where you write a personal letter to an author and the author responds. And so again, it humanizes the author. You know, when you read a book, you kind of had this whole fantasy world in your mind, but then when you find out like, hey, this author is a real person, and I can write this to them and ask about why they wrote the book and be able to personally relate. Again, you're increasing the love and motivation of writing, which is what we need. This is what our job is as teachers, is kind of to stoke that kind of passion and fire for reading and for writing. I like the strategy of adapting a text to reflect today. So taking maybe some pieces of literature or even pieces of informational text from maybe the 1800s and say, okay, if this piece was happening today, how would it affect the beginning of the piece or the end of the piece? Or, if you were to read Romeo and Juliet today, what would that look like? How would the modernization of that story come to fruition? So it exercises creativity, but again, the relevancy piece and being able to think critically about how do I take a piece of text and make it more applicable in real world. And it's a very important skill for students. A few more. Making a comic, and Canva does a great job with this. So Canva has these templates, and what you can do with these templates is they have pictures with they have like some text already filled in, but you can edit the text. So actually, I will show you an example here. So this is one where these cute little characters that look like potatoes or rocks, or I don't know what they are, little blobs, and so you can actually create captions for the characters here, and then what you could do is you could ask you could send it to a friend, and they could finish the story, or you could create the pictures and have your friend create all the captions, or your friend could create the captions and you create the pictures. So you get to decide how you want that to look, but it's a really collaborative and fun effort to be able to create and kids and adults love comic strips because they're fun, they're kind of catchy, they're short, and you get to use your creative writing skills. All right, so popping back over to our list of strategies, texting stories are fun. Cassandra, have you seen these videos where you have like a text bubble, and there's a conversation between?
Yeah.
Well, the really cool thing is you can actually create those bubbles, and they're called texting stories. And if you just Google texting, there's a couple of different apps out there. That's why I don't have a specific app that I'm recommending, because there's a few different ones. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of free ones. And all the tools, by the way, that I'm showing you today have free versions. So of course, every tool has usually like a premium version that can be paid for, but every tool will have a trial or free version here. So all these can be tried out if you're interested. But the texting stories are great because it allows students to create, again, dialogue. And so we'll take the Romeo and Juliet example again, of being able to kind of like create this story, like what if Romeo and Juliet were living today and they were texting back and forth. And so it's a creative writing process, but you're creating a video of the texting, and that's exciting because kids, again, and they like to use the texting language and the texting bubbles. So I love the texting stories for that.
I've never heard of that, but that sounds so fun.
Yeah, oh, it is. It's a lot of fun, and again, it's relevancy. Kids love texting. It's a part of their world, so why not utilize that for writing and literacy? All right, so WeVideo, of course. I work for WeVideo, big WeVideo fan. Yes, big.
I love WeVideo. I love WeVideo.
I love it because it really makes everyone a movie producer. It makes everyone kind of in the director's seat, and I love all the features. The green screen. All the stock media. Like if I want to make a movie about tigers or about photosynthesis. I mean, there's so many concepts, and if I live in a city, I might have access to, you know, the wildlife, and so I can go into the stock media and type in a tiger, and there's like 20 different videos of a tiger, and I can drag that into my timeline and make a movie about a tiger, and in the process, I've learned about the tiger as well. Well, in a writing sense, it's a really great strategy to have students do a video kind of pre-write. And in a traditional pre-write, you look at, you know, what are some vocabulary words we are going to explore? What are some big ideas we'd like to explore together? But whenever you're introducing vocabulary words, it's really good to be able to match those words with some concrete concepts. And so being able to use the stock media library, and so if you're learning about arthropods, you can go type in arthropod, and you can see all these pictures of arthropods. I'm like, that's what that is. You know, what are those characteristics of arthropods? What patterns do you notice? And then that kind of gets your creative juices flowing, so I'm able to write more about it. So I love to use WeVideo as a pre-write. I also like to use it as a teacher creating an instructional video. And with the pandemic, a lot of authors and publishers gave permissions to be able to use their work, record you reading stories. And so, there's our texting story, by the way. So we've talked about that. We talked about pre-writing with WeVideo. Now with read alouds, so this is like an example of, like, you know, this is a Wizard of Oz, and so of course with the Wizard of Oz, everything's in the public domain, so I don't have to obtain permission. But so I want to make sure that if you are recording yourself with reading videos or reading books through video to your students, make sure you get permission from the publisher first. But I love to be able to have students look at the pages really close. Because when you're reading, like on a Facebook Live, you're like putting the book really close to the camera, and you're like trying to like show, like point to the words. But with WeVideo, you can have your picture here with you reading the book, but you also can have the pages of the book full screen, and that's like the webcam and the sharing the screen feature.
I love that, because we have it now of, you know, bedtime stories. People are like, look, and you can't see the pictures of the imagery, but the fact that it's side by side, I really enjoy that.
Absolutely, I appreciate that. And the second part of that, this is a GIF you're seeing. You have a GIF creator within the platform now. So now you don't have to go and find a third party to create a GIF. You can just create a GIF right in the platform. So instead of a long movie, you might want to create just a quick 15-second GIF. But yeah, you can do instructional videos if you're a teacher and you're out in the backyard and you're growing a tomato plant or whatever. I try to garden. I'm not really a gardener. I'm really more of like I grow weeds really, really well, like big like dandelion weeds everywhere. So
I love these, and
my tomato plants do well.
No, this is great, because I mean, it really puts it all together. Which I find teachers are struggling with pieces, and you know, trying to put pieces together, but this comes seamlessly. So I love this.
Awesome. Yay. Well, Padlet is another really fun tool, and the Padlet's been around for a few years, Cassandra, but I love how it's adapted and changed over time, because Padlet has realized that teachers are using this more collaboratively, students are using this, and Chalk Talk is a protocol that I to do in Padlet. So Chalk Talk is a protocol in a traditional setting where you would have a big question on the board. Of course, you know, back in the days of the chalkboard, you could do a whiteboard with markers, but you have a question, and then the students would have a different colored marker, and they would write with, you know, their thoughts with their specific color, and they would keep writing their thoughts and then responding to other people's thoughts too, and then keeping the colors consistent with the person helped kind of show patterns, and also was able to identify who put what comment where. But I like with Padlet, it's a virtual kind of Chalk Talk, because as a teacher or a student, you can put up a big idea or question, and then you can comment on the big idea, and it's basically a big virtual corkboard with virtual post-it notes everywhere, and you can organize them. You can put videos in the post-it notes. You can draw on the Padlet, and it's a great way of organizing. Maybe you can do concept mapping on a Padlet. So it's a really great strategy, and I think it can definitely be used in conjunction with the writing process.
Yes.
Okay, so we're gonna wrap up here. with these kind of statements to help with ensuring that your remote classroom is a writing intensive remote classroom, because writing does span all grade levels. And so we want to make sure that the environment is stimulating. And so how do you do that when you're in a remote setting? Because again, every student is joining from their home, and so they may not have access to lots of materials. So that's where we have to ensure as teachers that we are, if it's a Google Classroom or Seesaw or whatever, Canvas, whatever platform you have, make sure that you're giving our Google Drive folder, they have access to fiction, to information text. Public libraries are opening up their libraries for online logins, making sure that students have access to text and literature. It's really important. And then making sure that we're engaging with our students every day through our LMS, which, our learning management systems. So Google Classroom, Blackboard, I mean, all of those LMS systems are great for daily engaging with your students. I love doing these morning meetings, by the way, when I think about daily engagements. And these morning meetings are part of the responsive classroom. And I've seen, with WeVideo, I've seen teachers do these asynchronous morning meetings where they record themselves with their, hey, students, what's the weather like today? Here's the weather here today, and they show they're outside the window, they have a morning message, they have a problem they solve together, and then the students can create their own video in response to the morning meeting, or they give them, a couple of days to, reflect on your own about, help your parents, in the kitchen today, or go find your favorite toy and let's look at some characteristics, or let's do some math and measure, dimensions of your favorite toy. It really sets the tone for learning, and your kids love to see you on camera. I could see your kids, Cassandra, just loving to see your fun personality. I would miss that as a student. If I just saw an email from you, I would be like, but seeing you on video is a personal connection. It makes me okay, so I can see my teacher on video. We're going to do this. It'll be a lot of fun.
No, I love this because, we want that personal connection. And when we think writing, we don't think writing together. And all of these tools that you gave us, we are writing together, and it's synchronous, it's asynchronous. I'm excited. I'm ready to jump in and learn some of these tools. And I want to try them out with my, my educational leaders to kind of see how that works and what are some creative ideas. So I love all of these strategies.
Awesome. Well, thank you. Yeah, I think as educators, we have to really think outside the box during challenging times, and it's not a time to resist. It's not a time to give up, although we are exhausted, we are tired. But I know as teachers, we're also one of the hardest workers out there, and we'll do anything for our kids. And so that's why, we were called to teaching, because we have this kind of drive to help this next generation of learners, be their most successful selves. And so that's why I've given these strategies in hopes that we can continue to kind of push the boundaries, keep reading aloud stories to your kids. Even if you don't get to see them face to face, you can use video for that. Allow them to create authentic works, allow them to create websites, blog posts, and of course I gave some ideas with the Google Slides and the dialogue journals, but allow them to be able to create something that's meaningful to them. And I think, my concluding message would be this for students that, or for teachers, let's make sure that we are creating opportunities for students to create what they love. And we get so wrapped up sometimes into these packaged prompts and these prescriptive measures, and that's not fun all the time. But we know that as artists and creators, we love to do things that interest us, and we can still do learning. We can still find ways. And I think our job as teachers, more than deconstructing standards, more than creating lesson plans, is to tap into what our kids love to do and create meaningful learning opportunities from there.
Yes, their passion.
Yes.
Passion. So we love you. Let me just say, I love you. I appreciate you sharing your knowledge.
I love you too, and I just am so excited to be connected to you and learn from you and to get to follow your journey. So it is such an honor and pleasure to be here. Thank you so much for Cassandra for
No,
inviting me.
thank you so much. Talk to you later.
Talk to you soon.
Bye.
Bye.